Okay, so I got my Jupy notebook running on SageMaker on AWS, and I have my Guazio cluster running on top of AWS Outposts. And what I want to do is to use MLRun and run inside SageMaker, get my data, analyze my data, create a model. Once the model is created, I'm going to use MLRun to post the model into AWS Outpost, and then start serving it using Nuclio, which is the Guazio serverless framework. And then I want to create an automatic workflow using Q4 pipeline, which is basically going to automate all this work. So in order to do that, actually, all I need to do in my notebook is define these 5 variables. Basically, I'm telling the notebook that I want to connect to MLRun, and everything that I'm doing, I want it to be tracked in MLRun. So I need to specify the MLRun location, and I need to specify the user and password for MLRun, so that I can connect, store all my artifact, and retrieve all my artifacts. So once I have these 5 lines ready, once I have the environment variables ready, I can start running my code. In this case, it's a very simple code. I just take the sklearn data set. I load the iris data set, which is a very simple data set. This is just for the example. I'm going to load the data set. I'm going to look at it, and then I'm going to run training and create a model out of it. And then I'm going to post that model into the AWS Outposts. So this is my code. When I'm going to create a project in MLRun, it's going to be called the SK Outpost test. And then I'm going to run my code. Running my code, I'm going to use an MLRun function called run local, which basically runs my code locally. And once you run it inside this wrapper, this means that everything that I'm doing is going to be tracked inside MLRun. All the experiments are going to be tracked. Everything that I'm doing, like the whole way, all the way from the beginning until I get my my models and versioning and so on. So I'm going to run this. Locally, and it's completed. Now I can actually see it in MLRun. So if I go to my cluster to MLRun, I can look at my new project, SK Outpost test. I can see in this case that I was running the first step. I can click on it. I can see the artifacts that were created and so on. So moving on, as this is a very simple test, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hub. Hub is basically functions that were pre-built inside MLRun that do classification on sklearn classification and testing. So basically, they would just get the data set, run training, run classification, and then once this step is done, I can take that and use another function from the hub called model server, which is basically going to create based on it's going to create my endpoint based on the model that was created. And then I actually have a model server tester, which is actually going to test the endpoint, send a request to the endpoint, look at the results, and analyze the performance and so on. So to do all this, I want to use a Q4 pipeline, as I mentioned, because I want the whole thing to be automated, so that every change that I'm doing, I can just run the whole thing from beginning to end. So this is going to be saved, and then all I can do once I have the workflow, I can just do my project.run, which is going to run the project and create the pipeline. What do I mean by a pipeline? So if we go to Iguazio, we can look at the Q4 pipelines. We can see an sklearn example pipeline, which looks like that. So I basically have the different component, getting the data, running the training, running the testing, deploying the serving, and testing the serving. So I can see the whole workflow running, and I can just run the workflow. I can just run the workflow with one thing. So once I run the workflow, that will automatically create, store the model in MLRun, and create. So if we go, we're going to see the different steps that are running once they run, and this will automatically create an endpoint. So the endpoints are I'm now with the Outpost. I'm in the project, and I can see the endpoint that was created. So this is the endpoint. It's basically reading the model and generating prediction based on the model. So if I run this, it's going to tell me, well, you need to specify which model. In this case, I only created one. So I'm going to specify the model, and then I'm going to specify predict. So this is going to run a predict on the model that was generated. I need to specify the feature vector. So I have here an example feature vector. So we can see here this list of instances. So I can actually run a test and get the prediction of whether it's 0, 1, or 2, the type of iris. So once I have, so now I have this endpoint that was automatically created on AWS Outposts, and I can actually use that. So I can actually go and probably need to restart the kernel here. I can create test data and then send the test data into the new endpoint that was created. Once I go live, I'll probably create a Kubernetes ingress, so this can be accessed from anywhere outside the cluster. But in this case, we're just running requests and getting the result of the prediction. So to summarize, we started with the sklearn project. We defined the environment variables in order for my SageMaker to be connected into MLRun. And from then on, I basically do my work, look at the data, create my model, and then I post the model into using MLRun into the Iguazio cluster running on Outposts, and then I have an endpoint and I can start using it. Thank you very much.